Hey, it's Natalie with the Think Yourself Academy. How do we find balance in life? We need to consider 6 keys in order to find balance and feel that we are living our purpose, being in our own identity. So I will use Tamlin. It is a fictional name. It is one of my actual client. Uh, she is a young woman in her early 20s with a very unusual, complicated life. For someone her age, she has lived through a lot of things. She's had to take on some very adult responsibilities very quickly. Her father died when she was in her first year of university. She took a break to grieve and help her mother cope, but now she has gone back to school part-time. She is working full-time while she's at school to pay her tuition and living expenses. Just these things alone would be already a lot for any young person to deal with. Now, the problem is Tamlin's mother is not doing so well. She's still grieving. She has quit her job and she's turned to alcohol to soothe her sadness. Things happen. So Tamlin lives alone with her mom, and she now has taken on the role of caregiver on top of it all. So she's doing all the household chores, she's doing the shopping for grocery on top of her responsibility as a student. And unfortunately, this chaotic existence has resulted in trouble at work because very often she has to leave early to prepare for classes, or she shows up late because she's exhausted from studying and the late hours. So consequently, she's not super popular at her job and she's afraid of being fired. As if all of this wasn't hard enough, she has no time to just enjoy being a young person, a 20-year-old in school. She feels like she's letting down her friends who she never sees. So Tamlin and I worked on multiple sessions in order to figure out what she wanted first. So first we look at what's your purpose, what's important to you, what her desire really was. And she identified that graduating university was the most important thing for her, because if she would get a solid career, she could move out of her mother's house and be independent and yet still be there for her. So we knew what to set our sights on. So deciding what you want is the first step. So from there, we went through every single layer of a person's self using my DNA system in combination of Robert Dilt's neurological level. So we look at her environment, and we wanted to see what was serving this desire and what was not. So she realized that she could not study at home because her mother was very distracting. She didn't have any privacy. So she found a few coffee shops in her area that she could walk to and study in peace. And she invested in some noise canceling headphones. So this is all environmental solution. Then once she had worked on her environment, we looked at some behaviors that she could adopt, like making sure that she go to bed early on the days that she worked the next morning. And she began to create some boundaries around her mother's access to her time and her energy. To do all this, we first had to make sure that Tamlin would become good at, so her skills, she needed to become good at making a schedule. She had never really worked with a schedule because all she had to do before was being a 19, 20-year-old kid, getting up, going to school, coming back home. So it's not like she needed an expensive journal and calendar to keep track. But now that she had a much busier life, she needed this skill to make a schedule that would allow her to set some hard boundaries around her personal or school time and her work time, shifting the focus of her life so that she could keep herself healthy and happy first instead of her mother. And of course, she wanted to be there for her mother, but you can't be there for nobody if you don't have you first. So we needed to work on Tamlin first. And this way, her hours spent cleaning and doing errands for her mom were reduced to manageable, non-negotiable blocks of time in her schedule. So she acquired the skill to do that. She could no longer be available every moment of the day and still achieve her desire. So she needed to set some boundaries. Once she was no longer overworked and exhausted, then she was able to find the space and the energy to address her values. So what is really important to you, which included her relationships with her friends and studying hard. That was important to her. So she put in the time with her friends in her schedule every week. So she had a few areas of time that she would spend with her friends, and she would talk to her boss about a work schedule that could work around her school demands instead of the other way around. She had never even asked her boss. So now she was able to be emotionally present for her mom, which is what the grieving woman had needed all along, because doing the errands is not what the mom needed. Her mom needed to be able to be emotionally involved with her daughter. That's what she needed the most. And now Tamlin was able to give her that because she was herself much better. So shiny floors and shiny bathrooms and cleaning the house is not really what would help her mother, but seeing her daughter being calm, being organized, that was a lot more important. So once all these new tools and skills and values were working for her, she was able to identify her focus on her identity. So who did she wanted to be, which was a lawyer. She wanted to build a law practice that she was working so hard towards. And she wanted to be at her best and love herself and who she was, instead of hating herself for being always half able to do everything she needed to do. And then she was able to reach that purpose of focusing on her study and having a balanced life. So the process of working through all the different layers of herself allowed her to balance her entire life and be a better student, a better daughter, and a better friend. So look through every single layer of your life in order to find that balanced lifestyle.